Hello everybody and welcome into the Thursday. I'm Jacob Bodner. It is Thursday, February 16th, 2012. On this week's episode, we talk about the Twitter reaction to the Grammys, Facebook timeline coming to brand pages, and how much is your tweet worth? This is your source for social media news and views. Let's get started. Welcome into the show. Quick reminder before we get things started, please subscribe to our YouTube page, youtube.com/ourtimemedia, to get all of our content right when it is released. We're also working on putting this content on a bunch of different services, including Blip TV, Vimeo, Dailymotion, all those kind of places. You can also find it on our website at redtie.tv. Let's get into the content for this week, though. And the big news was the Grammys and Whitney Houston's death. And from a perspective of social media, it actually had a big impact. 10,901 tweets per second according to Twitter during the Grammys. That compares to 12,233, which is what we had the new record during the Super Bowl this year. So a lot of tweets, a lot of people tweeting, and it's continuing this trend of social television, if you will, where a TV show has a hashtag, people are talking about it, having some kind of a communal social reaction to television. And it's one of the reasons I think live TV and network television and broadcast television, cable in general, is going to have a difficult time going away, because there is this kind of community aspect to watching a show while everybody else is watching it, and that's only built more stronger when you have Twitter as a kind of backbone to talk about the shows while you're watching them with anybody in the world. However, one of the things I like to look at with these reports is not necessarily how much people are tweeting, but what they're tweeting about. And one of the interesting things they said, and this comes from Beverly Jackson, who's the director of marketing and social media for the Recording Academy, and she basically said once Jennifer Hudson came out on the stage to sing the Whitney Houston tribute, it came to a complete stop on Twitter. Everybody stopped and watched that. Whereas normally when you have these kinds of award shows, there's multitasking going on. You kind of listen to what's going on, a winner's announced, you tweet about it, you go on. Everyone stopped tweeting during that moment and listened to Jennifer Hudson, which is kind of a truly profound way of putting that. And so not only how much is being tweeted, but the patterns within those tweets and the patterns within a program is very interesting to look at to get an idea of maybe like the heat map of a program, so to speak. If you're looking at an artist and who was the heat map for in terms of being an artist at the Grammys, it was Adele. She had 2.5 million mentions on Twitter, 500% more than any other artist. Rihanna, Chris Brown, Nicki Minaj, and Whitney Houston rounded out the top 5. A new report out from Ad Age says that Facebook will finally unveil timeline for brand pages this month. That would be in February. When timeline came out, really initially back in like September or August, when it came out kind of publicly earlier this year, late last year, Twitter kind of said, well, we'll eventually migrate it to brand pages. That's not something we're doing right now. And it looks like this month you'll have the option to turn it on. According to Ad Age, basically what's going to happen is it's going to be kind of a Twitter model of how Twitter is doing with their brand pages. Facebook will turn on timeline for a select number of brands, then they will grow that until everybody finally has the feature installed. So the question that kind of arises here, the question that I think of when I hear about Facebook timeline for brand pages is, how is that useful for brands? Timeline, I think, is an amazingly intuitive way to display your story on Facebook, which is kind of what Facebook is all about, telling the story of your life. But brands aren't really telling the story of their lives. They're trying to sell you product, they're trying to engage with you, talk with you, get your feedback. I don't see the timeline look and feel as being necessarily powerful in that realm. Facebook does say there's some quirks here and there. It's not a carbon copy of the Facebook timeline you have on your profile, but it is very similar. It looks like the tabs that brand pages will use on the side, what was previously on the top, are going to be in boxes in the timeline. So it almost kind of tells me that the timeline won't be this kind of toilet paper roll of reverse chronological things. It'll rather be maybe some static things here or there and then dynamic on one side. Not totally sure. There probably are some creative ways to go about it, but I'm not totally sure it's the best way for a brand to use their page. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments section as a video response or on Twitter at Jacob Bodner. Real quick side note for Facebook as well, they have started doing verified accounts and they have started doing pseudonyms. So if you are, let's say, Lady Gaga, you can have a Facebook profile or a page, and you can have people subscribe to you as Lady Gaga, not necessarily as your birth name, which is something that is in Facebook's terms and conditions. That will start tomorrow. So you'll be able to have a verified account, much like you can on Twitter right now. Twitter has a little blue check mark next to people's names if it's a verified account. Facebook will now start verifying accounts. And with the subscriber feature and with this feature of verification, it looks like they're certainly trying to take a stab at Twitter. I still think they're two completely different platforms, and I don't think Facebook should really even try to compete with Twitter, because Twitter is a whole kind of a separate, quick, populating, almost sort of newsreel type of service, whereas Facebook's really about richer, stronger connections that can go more in depth with a lot of media and text and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if it's necessarily smart for Facebook to be really harping on the subscriber things. It's nice for the public figures, but for everyday people, I don't think it's that big of a deal. What do you think? Comments, video responses, whatever you want. And finally, a new study from Eventbrite shows just how much a Facebook share, tweet share, or share on LinkedIn is actually worth. This is in hard data like e-commerce numbers. So this isn't just saying, this is kind of vaguely what it is. The question's always arisen, how much is social media worth? What is the ROI, the return on investment with social media? Eventbrite is trying to answer that question. This is quantifying the value and impact of social media in terms of e-commerce. What they found is essentially a share on Facebook is equal to $2.52. A tweet, so a retweet or a share on Twitter, for instance, now it doesn't necessarily have to be a retweet, it could just be a person sharing something on Twitter, is equal to 43 cents. And a share on LinkedIn is equal to 90 cents. A share through our email friends is $2.34. So if you're ranking them, Facebook's on top, then email, then LinkedIn, then Twitter. Now everyone's making a big deal about how a share on Facebook is worth 600% more than a share on Twitter. But really for me, it's the share on LinkedIn being so much more than Twitter. It's about double what it is on Twitter, which is kind of interesting. LinkedIn is a powerful platform, obviously has its benefits, but a share on LinkedIn worth 90 cents, more than double what it is on Twitter. But again, it shows you Facebook's a deep connection service, email is obviously a deep connection service, and those two are the highest numbers by far. So if you're really looking to influence people into purchasing something from an e-commerce standpoint, Facebook and really kind of maybe email marketing seems to be a really powerful way to do it. That does it for this episode of The Thursday, February 16th, 2012. Let me know what you think about the show or any of the stories talked about today. Speaking of those stories, links can be found below in the description, as well as information on how you can contact the show. We'll have a new episode of Status Update on Sunday at 7 p.m. That'll be at live.redtie.tv and podcast by 9:30 p.m. or 10 p.m. that night. We've got all the biggest news. We took last week off, but we'll have all the big news from the social media and the technology industry, including some iPad 3 rumors that are coming out. So we'll break all that down for you. And HTC unveiling a whole slew of new phones. That's something else we're going to be talking about coming up on Sunday. Check that out at redtie.tv. All of our video content can be found right here on the YouTube channel, so please do subscribe. And let me know what you thought. Comment, video response, or tweet me would be greatly appreciated. Have a great week.